If you're tired of spending hours routing objects and beds, in this video, I'm going to share with you my exact Dolby Atmos mixing template that I use on commercial records and indie projects. And to prove a point, I'm not using my main studio. I'll be using a laptop with a pair of headphones. This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. Let's go. Hey guys, what's up? This is Alex from Alex Pro Mix. In this video, I'm going to share with you my Dolby Atmos mixing template that I use on commercial records and indie projects. I've used this template to create mixes for artists such as Keith Sweat, Jamie Miller, Daddy Yankee, Young Kai, and many more. I run an approved Dolby Atmos mixing room, which uses beautiful KSD monitors. But in this video, we're not going to use any of that. I'm going to show you how this template works on a laptop, and you can start mixing now using headphones. Without further ado, let's jump in. There are going to be two session files that you can download. One is the 916 and the other one is the 714. The 916 template works with Pro Tools Ultimate because of the larger channel counts, and the 714 works with Pro Tools Studio. But let's jump into the 916 first. Now, you might get this message with your session notes. Now, don't be scared. This is nothing wrong with this. Just don't click no, don't click yes. Instead, go to the OpenIO setup. In the OpenIO setup, I'm going to go to bus. And if you don't see any of this, you're just going to click on restore from session. And you're going to see a few things here on top. You're going to see a 714 output. This is going to be a virtual output if you guys don't have access to an audio interface with multiple speaker setups. You can still monitor on headphones or binaurally using a two-channel interface. The internal routing is very important, which is the 916 in and the 916 out. I'll get into that. And then the no output, which I'll explain in a minute. So that's out of the bus tab, okay? The next tab you're going to go to is output. And here we're going to create some routings. And again, I'm using my laptop for a reason. I want to show you guys how to build this from scratch as far as the routing. So click aux.io. I'm going to choose my MacBook speakers. In this case, this will function as my audio interface for playback. And I'm also going to choose Pro Tools Audio Bridge 16 output. Click OK. I'm going to delete channels 3 through 16 and then change this to 714. Let's rename this 7.1.4 virtual output. This will allow us to use the integrated Dolby renderer to see all the channels and all the meters using the renderer. Okay, and then main outputs is going to be my main output. This is going to be a two-channel interface or something that you can monitor via headphones. So I'm just going to call this audio interface. Okay, cool. So we have our bus and we have our output. Also very important here is the monitor path. Right now set to none because it just wiped out all my settings because I'm opening this up on a new computer. Monitor path, I'm going to choose 714 virtual output. This is if you're going to be monitoring on headphones, and I'll explain that as well. Let's check out the Dolby Atmos tab and everything is there. Let's click OK and open the session. All right, so this is the template. And let me kind of give you guys a walkthrough of how things are laid out and why these tracks are there. And then we'll import some stems, watch some meters run, and monitor in binaural. Okay, the first folder is called renders, and this has a 2.0. 2.0 basically means stereo. It's a fold down from the multi-channel playback engine of the Dolby renderer. And here you're gonna see the re-render is set to loudness 2.0 direct. And if you don't see that, you're gonna go to setup.io, Dolby Atmos, and choose loudness re-render 2.0 direct. Headphone re-render binaural. Now this 2.0, we're not going to monitor that. That's just going to be for metering. In my studio, I have this routed to a pair of Doro meters, and I can visually see my Atmos gain staging when I'm, comparing stems to the final stereo mix. But because we're working in a box, I'm working on a computer on a laptop, I'm going to use a metering plugin such as VU Meter or Insight. So I'm going to put that there, and this allows me to basically monitor what the Dolby mix is going to come out when it's folded down to stereo. All right, this is just a visual reference, by the way. The output is set to no output, which is a bus that's set to no output. That's intentional. And the notes right here says metering plugin to monitor at -18. All right, cool. Next one down is reference, and this is going to be a stereo reference audio track and then a stereo aux binaural track. And these are very important. This allows you to monitor the stereo reference up against the binaural mix when you're mixing using headphones or monitoring using headphones. The input of the stereo reference is going to be set to no input. There's a trim plugin that basically brings this down minus 9 dB so that you can gain match and gain stage your stems to it. And then the binaural mix, the input is set to re-renders, and then the output is basically set to my audio interface. If you want to preserve the naming structure that I put on here, which is mains and headphones, you can leave it the way it is and then go to Setup IO and then set the mains to your audio interface and the headphones to your audio interface. And again, in this case, my audio interface, quote unquote, is my MacBook Pro speakers. So that's there, cool. And now we have the 916 folder. And whenever we bring in stems, which we will in a minute, everything's gonna be routed to this folder. I can put plugins on this folder if I want. I can do, mastering in this folder if I want, mix bus processing. And then this is gonna route everything to the Dolby renderer. If I open this folder, you're gonna see that everything is already pre-assigned. So to test this out, I'm gonna create an audio track with a tone generator and see if the Dolby renderer is responding to it, okay? So mono audio track, signal generator, set the output of all the stems that you bring in to 916 in, okay? And then if I bring in this panner and also show the renderer, you're gonna see this. That is basically hitting those channels when I move the sound around the room. And this monitor is set to 714. Now, if I didn't create that 714 virtual output in Pro Tools using the Pro Tools bridge, you would be limited to just 2 channels. And this has been kind of like the limitation of working out of a laptop or working remotely when mixing in binaural, is that you don't really see all the channels that are displayed. But with this you are. So for example, if we switch this signal generator to noise, there you go. Feeding LFE channel, and it's appearing right there. Cool. So let's close this up. Let's go ahead and delete this track. And a couple more things that I want to show you guys in the routing that are important. Is going to make your life easier when you're using this template. Let's go to Setup IO again. And here we have the default output bus. That basically means that whenever you bring in a track or create a track, just like we did right now, what's it going to default the output to? So we want the default output to be the following. Mono, bus, 916 in. Do the same thing for stereo, bus, 916 in, and then click OK. Now when we create an audio track or we bring in stems, it's automatically going to go to our routing folder. Let's try that. Yep, it's right there, 916 in, and it's working. Cool. So up to this point, we've gone through the process of opening the template, checking our Setup IO. Let's recap. In output, I created a 2-channel, using aux.io, I created a 2-channel output, in this case, my MacBook speakers, and I called it audio interface. This could be your 2-channel audio interface that you use. I also created a virtual output using the Pro Tools Audio Bridge 16. Now, if you do have a Dolby Atmos setup with speakers, then you just basically choose that as your main audio interface. Cool, so we got that. Monitor path is 714 virtual out, bus, 916 in. That goes to the 916 out, which is already routed there. No output, basically for the VU meters. And that's about it. Dolby Atmos, we'll get into the renderer settings in a minute. There we go. And let's go ahead and click OK. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in some stems and put this to the test. And we have track 1 stems. Select all, copy, open. Destination new track. From track selection, I'll use session start. And there are my stems. Now, the first and most important thing to do is to match the length and the start time of the stems to the master. So this is the master stem, and I'm going to select all the stems that are not the master stem. I'm going to group that, select edit, zoom in, and basically use tap to transient in Pro Tools to find the starting point. Control click, that's going to line that up. Let's check the end. There's the beginning. Cool. So right now our process stems are lined up to the stereo master, start time and end time. Notice how there's a pre-roll right here. That's important. When we export our Dolby master file, our ADM, we're going to want to make that selection. So now that my stems are lined up to the stereo master, I'm going to take that stereo master, cut, and paste it to the stereo reference track. Now, right off the bat right here, if I just start playing audio, I'll be able to hot swap, between the stereo reference and the binaural mix by using Shift-M. But that's how that works. That's how the routing works. Let's go ahead and spread things out in the room just for the sake of demonstration. So I'm going to take this bass stem, move this over, and I'll show you guys that the LFE channel works. There's the LFE channel. Let's take a couple more things. Drums, guitars, let's kind of pan them out a little bit. One thing to note is that Pro Tools doesn't automatically link the pan. So you want to click Option click and basically enable these icons so that all the tracks, all the surround panners are linked. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to, arbitrarily move things around and kind of just get the meters dancing so you guys can see that visually. By no means is this a mix or, I wouldn't be blindly panning, especially without hearing it. But for the sake of demonstration, let's go ahead and mute that and I'll just hit play. There we go. Cool. Everything's working. Everything's routed to the renderer. I have an awesome looking immersive mix and everything's working. Okay, cool. So that's how the template works. Let me show you guys what to do if you're working on EPs or albums. So in this case, this is track 1 from an EP. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and select all the stems that correspond to that track 1 or song 1. Right click on it, move to new folder. I'll change it from basic folder to routing folder, choose 916. I'll name it song 1, hit enter. Everything automatically routes to it. If I hit play, all my panning is intact. And then I can use this for gain staging. So for example, I can use a trim plugin and I can gain stage the whole mix down if I want. So that's where this 2.0 track is important because you can put a metering plugin and kind of monitor, okay, am I around -18 or am I too hot or too low? Let's go ahead and bring in track number 2. There you go. Let's import those, copy, open. Now right here, I'm not going to hit OK. I'm going to click selection. So here's track number 2. Here's the master and here are the stems. Let's go ahead and use tab to transient. Cut that, shuffle that over. There's our master. All these are the stems. Let's chop that out. And then let's bring in the stereo master there on the reference. Delete that empty track and take these stems. We'll just pan them now for the sake of, again, you have to link this for some reason. It doesn't automatically do it for you. Not sure why. But let's go ahead and move things around so you guys can actually see that visually. All right, we'll take these stems. Right click, move to new folder. Song number 2. Automatically assigns it to 916. Hit play. There it is. And then I can toggle back and forth between binaural and reference and monitor the stereo mix, monitor binaural mix, and match it tonally and then do my mix. You might be asking, hey Alex, why do I need to use 916? Why so many channels if the Dolby renderer only supports up to 714? So that's a very great question. 916 is the highest track count available in Pro Tools. And what this allows you to do is have more precision control over the binaural settings. Let me explain. So if we open the 916 folder and we take a look at the object settings, you're going to see that subharmonic is being fed by the LFE and it's going directly out to the bed. Front is using objects, objects, objects. And we're using objects for everything. But what this allows me to do is, for example, I can have the front and center binaural settings set to off. Wide can be set to near, sides can be set to mid, and rears can be set to far. The advantage that I have there is that when I have a track and I'm panning it from front to wide to side to rear, now it's gradually increasing its effect using the different binaural settings that are assigned to those channels. So if something's hard pan to left and right channels, which are the front channels, it's got no binaural settings on it. As I move it down this lane right here, it's going to go from near to mid to far. So it just gives you more precision and more control, especially with the binaural settings, to create a binaural mix that matches the creative intent. And that's really the whole reason why. And then you have top front, top middle, top rear. Top front is set to near, mid, and far. Now, I don't just leave these settings and like, oh, it's a golden rule, I shouldn't break that. No, it's like if the binaural mix sounds too drastically different from the stereo mix, where it sounds distracting or just too big, or the distance doesn't really fit the motion or the tonality of the mix, I'll reduce these, I'll actually use like near, or mid, but like it's a starting point. And the reason the 916 template works is because it gives you finer precision control over the binaural settings. All right, so hopefully that answers that question. In my room, I have a 714 room and I monitor in 714. The Dolby render is 714, but I'm still using the 916 template for that finer precision control on the headphone mix. Cool. So I'm gonna close this down and I'm gonna open up the 714 session for those of you guys who are using Pro Tools Studio and show you some workarounds. All right, here we go. Now, I didn't get those messages at first because it retained the routing and the settings that I had previously, but let's check them out. Setup IO, output, audio interface, that's my 2-channel audio interface. 714 virtual output using the Pro Tools Audio Bridge 16. Bus, you're gonna see here 714 in and 714 out. And then the mains and the headphones, which are actual outputs for the stereo reference and binaural tracks, are set to the audio interface. Cool. Okay, so from the top down, same thing, 2.0, that's for metering. Set to no output, it's just for the loudness. Stereo reference, that's where a stereo reference track goes. There's a trim plugin, -9. Binaural, that feeds the headphones and that feeds the mains. 714 in, same thing, just fewer channels because Pro Tools Studio has a limitation of that, and that's what it is. But you still get the benefit of this harmonic, which is the LFE. The front channels are panned using objects, center, side, rear, top, front, top, rear. So it's just less channels. Let's go ahead and do the test real quick. So I'll create an audio track, automatically assigned to 714 in, that's great. A signal tone generator. And let's bring the panner. And let's bring the Dolby renderer. So everything works as expected. So there it is, guys. This is the exact template that I use on major records as well as indie projects. If you don't want to spend hours figuring out how to route objects and beds and groups and all that stuff, just download the template. I'll leave a link in the video description below. Just fill out your details and you'll be able to have this template in your inbox. Also, if you want to dive deeper into Dolby Atmos mixing, but you just need a guide or a coach, there are coaching services available on the website, but you guys can find that out at alexpromix.com. All right, guys, so thanks again so much for watching. I really hope that you found this video valuable and that you are able to use the template right away. If you have any questions or feedback or comments, be sure to leave that in the video comments below. And I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. All right, thanks again so much. I'll see you again next time. Peace.